Imagine it's Saturday morning in the early 80s. You've got your bowl of Captain Crunch. The TV, it's warming up, and you're ready for the usual heavy hitters. You expect the Super Friends, or maybe some Looney Tunes reruns, but instead you're greeted by a group of superpowered teenagers who spend as much time worrying about their chemistry grades as they do about saving the world. They're colourful, they're musical, and they're attending a school that makes Xavier's Institute look like a quiet library. This was Hero High, a show that attempted to mash together a teen comedy of the likes of Archie Comics with the ever-growing superhero craze of the decade. It was a bizarre, high-energy experiment that burned bright and fast, leaving behind a legacy that is as much about what it almost was than what it actually became. Today, we are heading back to the class of 1981 to uncover the history of a show that tried to prove that being a hero is hard, but surviving high school is even harder.
Man, high school is rough.
The story of Hero High, it doesn't actually start with superheroes. It starts with the Riverdale gang. In the late 1970s, Filmation Associates, the legendary studio headed by Lou Scheimer, Norm Prescott and Hal Sutherland, was looking for the next big hit. They had a long-standing relationship with Archie Comics, having produced various animated iterations of the characters since, well, God, the late 60s. The original plan was for what would become Hero High was actually a new Archie series. Funnily enough, the concept was titled the Archie Adventure Hour, and it was intended to feature Archie, Jughead, and the rest of the Riverdale gang as superheroes attending a special academy. However, as development progressed, a massive shift occurred for reasons that still spark some debate among animation historians, ranging from licensing disagreements to a desire to have their own original IP ownership. Filmation decided to strip the Archie branding away. They kept the archetypes, the teenage tropes, and the high school setting, but they pivoted to a cast of original characters. It was a gamble. Could Filmation find success with a superhero school concept without the safety net of a major brand name?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
When Hero High finally made its debut on the 12th of September 1981, it didn't stand alone. It was actually one half of the Kid Superpower Hour with Shazam, an ambitious programming block on NBC. The show consisted of 26 segments, often paired with live action segments where the voice actors dressed up in costume to perform sketches and musical numbers in front of a live audience of screaming kids. It was a quintessential Filmation production. The series was produced entirely in-house at Filmation's California studio, a point of pride for Lou Scheimer, who famously resisted the industry trend to outsource the animation to overseas studios. This gave the show a distinct American look, even if the frame rates were sometimes lower than the fans might see from competitors like Hanna-Barbera.
They really are the best in the business.
The roster of Hero High was a deliberate collection of tropes. You had your Captain California, the vain surfboard-toting leader; Glorious Gal, the powerhouse with a heart of gold; Misty Magic, who could cast spells with a theatrical flair; and Weatherman, who controlled the elements but couldn't always control his own nerves. Rounding out the group were characters like Punk Rock, the musically inclined rebel, and Dirty Trixie, the resident prankster. The voice cast was a who's who of Filmation era. Christopher Hensel voiced Captain California, while Becky Pearl took on Glorious Gal. These actors weren't just the voices behind the microphones, they were the faces of the live action segments, essentially becoming the characters for this generation of kids who loved this cartoon. The dual medium approach was a hallmark of Filmation's attempt to create a brand that felt larger than just 22-minute cartoon.
The Kids Superpower Hour with Shazam will return after these messages.
Behind the scenes, the production was a whirlwind. Filmation was notorious for its tight budgets and tighter schedules to make 26 segments of Hero High alongside the Shazam shorts. The crew relied heavily on stock footage and character models that were reused across multiple episodes. If a character was flying, you could bet you've seen the exact same flight cycle 3, 4, 5 times in that episode. But what the show lacked in fluid animation, it made up for in sheer earnestness. The writers were tasked with balancing slapstick comedy with superhero action, and while adhering to the strict broadcast standards and practices of the early 80s, this meant the heroes couldn't really punch anyone. Instead, they used their powers creatively, trapping villains in bubbles, using wind to blow them away, or simply outsmarting them with a well-timed joke. It was superhero-lite. It was designed to be palatable for kids of all ages.
It's for smart kids, not weirdos.
Upon its release, Hero High was the moderate success, but it faced stiff competition. This was an era of the Smurfs and Spider-Man and his amazing friends. While the live action segments gave a unique flavour, they were also expensive and difficult to produce. NBC ultimately decided not to renew the Kids Superpower Hour for a second season, and Hero High was relegated to the world of syndication. Critically, the show was often dismissed as a knockoff of a better-known properties because it lacked the heavy-hitting villains of, say, the DC or Marvel universes. The stakes often felt pretty low. Fans of the era remember it fondly for its catchy theme song and the sheer weirdness of seeing the live-action actors in spandex jumping around on stage. But as a cultural phenomenon, it didn't quite reach the heights of, shall we say, Filmation's later masterpieces, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
It's truly a masterpiece.
Despite its short run, Hero High had one of the most persistent rumours involving the missing Archie Connection. If you look closely at the character designs for, say, Captain California and Glorious Gal, let's face it, they resemble Archie and Betty. It is literally undeniable. In the fact many animation cells still exist that show the early character designs with the Archie cast before they changed was made to the original characters. The show also featured the occasional crossovers with none other than Captain Marvel himself, Shazam, and Isis from the Secrets of Isis show, making it almost an unofficial part of the early DC animated history.
It's far-fetched, but it's not out of the realm of possibility.
For collectors looking for Hero High on home media, it has been something of a heroic quest itself. In the 1980s, a few select episodes were released on VHS by companies like RCA, Columbia Pictures, Home Video, often packaged with other Filmation shorts. These tapes are now rare collector's items, but it wasn't until the mid-2000s that the series saw a proper digital release. Yes, this one here, the entertainment rights and latter BCI Eclipse released Hero High, the complete series on DVD on the 8th of May 2007. This set was a dream for fans, featuring all 26 segments, some interviews with the creators, and even some of the live action performances. However, these sets went out of print back when a BCI Eclipse folded, making them some sought after acquisitions on the secondary market for us collectors. Currently, the show lives in a bit of a licensing limbo, so the hope that we will ever see an upgrade to Blu-ray or 4K HD release is probably more of a pipe dream than any sort of reality.
Nah, man, don't tell me that.
So for me, I am pretty sure I saw this as a kid. I did remember the show from my childhood, and I was always looking to find a copy of the show. And when I really started collecting this superhero media collection, it was one of the ones I wanted to search for first. And thank God they'd actually released this on DVD. Now, it did take me a while to get it on DVD, as it was, released in the States only, and it was a bit pricey when I first saw it. But I did manage to finally get a copy, as you can see, only a few years ago, I think about 3 or 4 years ago. Now, this is the first time I've watched it since I was a kid, and yeah, it was a bit of a tough watch. Now, as usually happens in cases like this, what I remember was way better than what it actually was, and this is so true on many cases across the board. Look, the stories are basic, even for cartoons of the 80s. Each segment is only like 8 or 9 minutes long, so there's no real room to breathe and tell anything really substantial, and the humour was very classic Filmation basic slapstick as well. So look, it was fun to go down memory lane, but this show made me realise my memory had created something better than what I saw. Look, I'll give this maybe a 4 out of 10. It's not a must watch, that's for sure. But look, if you remember watching this when you were a kid, you should honestly just go check it out again. That's definitely for sure. Also, one thing before I forget, is it me or did they model Homelander from The Boys after Rex Ruthless? I don't know, but I think there's a similarity. Hang on a minute. Let's just change that. Yep, okay, now I see it. Yes, Your Honour, I arrest my case.
Court adjourned.
The legacy of Hero High is one of missed opportunities and fascinating transitions. It represents the bridge between the funny animal cartoons of the 70s and the action-heavy toy aesthetic cartoons of the late 80s. While it didn't, change the world, it did lay the groundwork for the idea of a superhero academy, a trope that is now a staple of the genre, from My Hero Academia to Sky High to even the Umbrella Academy. It showed that you could tell stories about heroes who were also inexperienced, awkward, and obsessed with their social lives. It was a show that embraced the camp of the Silver Age while trying to find its footing in a new decade of animation. Ultimately, Hero High survives in the memories of those who spent their Saturday mornings wishing they had a flying surfboard or a magic wand. It's a snapshot of a time when Filmation was the king of the airwaves, willing to try anything to keep kids entertained on Saturday mornings. It might be flawed and the animation might be stiff by today's standards, but there is how can you say it, an undeniable charm to the bright colours and its can-do attitude. It serves as a reminder that before the dark, gritty reboots and the billion-dollar cinematic universes, superheroes were allowed to be a little bit silly, a little bit musical, and a whole lot of fun. Class might be out for the students of Hero High, but for those of us, yes, like me, who grew up with them, the lessons in Saturday morning magic are something we'll just never forget.
Never underestimate nostalgia.
Next week on the show, we are going to look at the Green Hornet serial from 1940. Can't wait to watch this old-timey classic. Thanks for watching.